How long has it been? How long has it been since the last time I had an actual shoulder workout? Dedicated shoulder day. It's been a while. I know it has been quite a while. And when was the last time I did shoulder press for real? Oh, I think the last time I did an actual overhead press had to be maybe, I don't know, years ago. 2 minimum, probably 3-ish. Maybe not 3, that's not true. I mean, sometimes I'll do a machine every so often, like, a couple times a year, just as like a little bit of front delt pumpage. But for me, this isn't not how it is or how it's supposed to be, but for me it ends up being that I've got a problem with a hunch. I got a problem with rolled over shoulders. So every time I'm doing chest, I'm trying my best to retract and, keep my front delts out of the press and only get my pecs working. But as a consequence of that, my front delts get some activation in pressing, especially since I'm doing a lot of incline. So they're not really, they're not behind the pack much at all. But dieting down, if the goal is just maintaining the size that I already have, well, then you got to throw some shoulders in. I'll do a little bit of forearms, but not like I'll just do some, for me, like a little bit of a couple pump sets at the end. But yeah, the real meat and potatoes here is going to be shoulders. So what's a good ratio? I bring this up a good amount when it comes to shoulders, especially as you get leaner. Is the most noticeable aspect isn't necessarily that roundness of your shoulder from the front, because everybody has that almost like even just from your structure as like your skeletal structure as a guy, and if you're 150, let's say you're on the scrawnier end, you've still got defined shoulders from the front just because they're kind of angular from that look. But from the back, if you've got no shoulder development, then your torso just kind of rolls off at the shoulders. So if I were to only have, well, I guess that's not a fair way to say it, but what I really want is to have shoulders that are round from all angles. So if they're already good from the front, well, then what do I need to work on? Shoulders on the backside, where when you're standing up, not even flexing, you could see your rear delts popping out through your shirt and giving you like a little shadow. Like that's the level where it starts to get pretty cool. And then plus, it just looks cooler anyway. Like even when you're walking around with or you're walking a plate from a machine to a different machine or something, or you're looking at yourself do curls from the side, or even just like when you're posing too, especially in a side tricep, if your rear delts are well developed, then it just totally completes your shoulder. It doesn't matter how big they are, in adding this like rounded over look, because obviously you've got kind of fibers going here to here, but when your rear delts are really popping out, you've got this extra like sweep, which that is an angle that definitely makes someone look much more bodybuilder-ish, if we want to kind of describe that. Like if you look at, there's not a ton of builds where people have a specific look. One version though is male gymnasts. I'm not talking like teenage level. I'm like Olympic level adult. Like these guys are completely pros. Usually bicep development huge, back development solid, forearms, triceps not as much. Same thing with shoulders. You're never doing anything that requires that, so it's or I guess kind of a lot of jiu-jitsu guys that I see, if that's like their primary training style, they're not so broad in the shoulder. It's because they're doing a lot of pulling here. But yeah, if you want one tip, or if I could give you one tip to actually up your shoulder game, it'd be to give rear delts some love. And I'm not exactly sure where I heard it, but I was on the rear delt train, which doesn't sound like, yeah, obviously hit rear delts, but I had a lot of value on putting rear delts in my shoulder training, like with the same amount as my side delts and my rear delts, even when I was a beginner working out in my high school's weight gym during my study hall. So when I had shoulders, I was doing I think I was doing barbell shoulder press. I was doing behind the back, because I remember, I think it was I think I was watching Callum Von Moger do behind the neck shoulder press, and I just liked it. Honestly, if I still wanted to do front delts, the only reason I wouldn't do behind the neck is because I'm too tight. Like I probably couldn't even get back there. But I used to do behind the neck barbell shoulder press like every shoulder day. Like that was a staple. Not as much now just because I don't need to do it, but yeah. That's one more thing where I wish I fucking recorded these workouts, because that'd be the funniest thing for me to look back at myself doing a badass set of like, 150 or something with a barbell kind of behind the neck. Yeah, maybe I wouldn't recommend that now. Just don't hurt yourself. But yeah, rear delts are definitely a key component of having that rounded over, kind of boulder shoulder look. Because, that's what, if you kind of boil it down in terms of lifting for the goal of looking like you lift, right? Kind of more bodybuilding, which, that's not the point. Like, I'm not walking around, like, my motivation to come to the gym today isn't like, oh man, I want to look like I have really big shoulders. Like, that's not it. Like, I like the process of it, but at the end of the day, that really is the goal. So the whole point is just improving your separation across the board. Especially older guys, I don't hear it referenced as much now, but they're always talking muscle bellies, joints. Obviously if your knee or your elbow is this big, you want your muscle, right, bicep, tricep, to be extra round. So, if and it helps when you're leaner, of course. The leaner I get, the more well-defined and separated, like, my front delts and my chest is going to be. But to have that added development, especially in basically every aspect of your insertion, so side delt, front, rear, once you get lean enough to see the separation, right, that's kind of where you'll put a little bit more value on sitting on the pec deck doing, reverse pec deck rear delt flies for 12 sets, or doing bent over dumbbell laterals where you're hitting your rear delt for 6 sets or whatever. It's not necessarily as fun in the moment, because as a movement, I think as a workout, I think shoulders gets hated on a little bit because it's simple. The answer is right in front of you. There is nothing more. Chest is cool because we've got heavy bench and flies, and you feel you're just like Arnold at a pump and iron. You're just fucking like chest gets a lot of love. I think back gets a decent amount of love. You're doing pull downs. That's what people think of when they think working out. But I'll see comments where, and I don't think this is like everyone thinks this, but some, they're like, well, shoulder day is so boring. You just do side laterals for, you do 10 sets of the same thing and then 10 sets of rear delts. Like, ugh. And then the motivation is, I'll just do a couple sets every now and again and that'll be all, right? Because people, or this hypothetical person might think, this is kind of boring, I don't really want to do it. And then guess what? Right? You never gets that look. Your shoulders never blow up, and then, maybe you're good if your shoulders are already big enough. Like for me, my shoulders are rounder than my arms are, so I can chill on them because I want my arms to catch up. But, I definitely didn't have that thought process in the beginning, because I want to be bigger across the board. Then everything's getting equal love. Calves, legs, back, chest, arms, shoulders, every insertion, side, front, rear delt. I used to even, my logic used to be, well, I don't want to give any one muscle a break. So for a while, I'd throw in neck training not a ton. Like I only did like maybe 5 or 6 times. But at the end of a lift, this is when I was in my home gym, so nobody was going to judge me. But I'd lay down on the bench and hold like a 10-pound plate, kind of like against the side of my head. I don't know if I cushioned it or anything, but it's not gonna hurt. And then I was doing like side bends, and or I was holding the 25, or no, not a 25, but I was definitely holding at least a 10 on my forehead and doing like front neck raises. And I used to do tibia raises. So you sit up against a wall, like you're standing with your back to the wall, and then you put your heels maybe 6 inches or a foot away from the base of the wall. And then when you raise your toes off the floor, it kind of raises your whole body. So it's a little bit of a working action to activate the front of your shins. Because in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, if I'm hitting the back of my calves, well, I should probably hit the front of it too. I think it was good for me to phase that out because it was so tricky to actually even make weight for that classic show that I did for, at least in the amateur league. So, you know, if I had an extra 2 pounds of calf, it might have made it a little trickier and I wouldn't be able to, you know, get under. But all that's to say is you're probably not going to regret hitting the muscles that might feel like a little more of a chore than something you're actually excited to do, because nobody's going to do it. You know, it's this situation where everybody slacks. So if you're the guy who still does it, well, then you're really ahead of the game. You know, so don't get bored if you sit on the bench in front of the dumbbells, you do a set of laterals, you put the weight down, and then you grab it and you do another one, and then you do that like 10 times in a row. Same movement, same everything. That shouldn't throw you off. If anything, that should make you say, nice. I don't have to walk around the gym and wait for other stuff to open today. I can just stay right here, only worry about getting my sets in, scroll through a couple motivational TikToks in between, and before you know it, my shoulders are going to be pumped to hell. So that's my plan next. I'm going to do rear delts first, so that side delts end up being a little bit of a finisher. And when you do side laterals, you get a little bit of rear delt activation too. If you kind of envision lifting the dumbbell up to the side, oh, careful, buddy, and then a little bit back as well, you can get some rear delt. So if I really cook them first with some reverse pec deck and some face pulls, then by the time I finish side delts, they'll be totally fully pumped because they'll get a little bit of extra work done. But yeah, it should be a substantial swelling effect, especially since I haven't hit shoulders for I don't know how many weeks. More than 20. Actually, no, that's not true. More than 15 for sure. I can say that. It's like decent certainty. But yeah, nothing else to say. Let's just go get shoulders started. Let's start off simple. Just some reverse pec deck. So on occasion, I'll get on a pec deck for this kind of movement and it just wrecks me. Like I get a weird like pinch in my shoulder blade, or no, my collarbone. This one's solid. Something to think about, right? Like if I had reverse pec deck on my mind and then I came into a gym and the reverse pec deck sucked, am I still gonna do it? Or should I switch it for a replacement movement that'll hit it a similar way but won't kind of hurt me, right? So that's just a point where, have a plan, but also have a backup plan in case you want to change that first one up. But no, this will be good. So not too heavy. I tried 150 and I'm like, all right, that's about right. Then 200 is a bit much. I think 180 will be the sweet spot. And this will be a couple reps. This isn't going to be like 5 or 6 or anything. All right. Yeah. 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 See. Okay. Ooh. Yeah. I can go a little heavier. But let's just do 3 more of those. Basically exactly the same. Yeah. Yeah. See. Yeah. Yeah. See. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I can't see my own reflection, but I'm semi-certain there's a little more rear delt definition. Let's do some bent over dumbbell next, and then get ready for side delts. So, is a reverse pec deck necessary? Right? Maybe not. I'm basically doing the same movement here. Obviously, the strength curve feels very different because that's more continuous with the cable and the pulley. And obviously with the dumbbell, it's heaviest up here at the top. And then there's like no weight at the bottom because all you're doing is holding it. But yeah, I mean, I'm not making sure I'm like 45 degrees, perfectly straight back. This isn't a row. I'm making sure I'm bent over enough that I can squeeze my rear delt specifically. And if I have a little swing just to get it moving, I'm okay with that, within reason, because it's not like I'm sitting here going crazy slow. Like I'm kind of aiming to get it moving, have a little bit of an oomph squeeze, and then repeat. Because even like, even just doing it with no weight, I can feel my rear delts just tensing up. So usually I go a little heavier here, but after a feeler rep with the 40s feel sweet. So I think just a couple of these and then it'll be time for some side laterals. All right. Yeah. 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 Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay, only one more of those will be necessary. Okay. All right. Yeah. Even just flexing my triceps, like I don't know exactly where your tricep tendon ends inserting, but it must be up by my rear delts because even tensing them is like getting everything going. No, that's good. Time for some side raises. Here's where a side lateral machine comes in. But in all honesty, I would describe basically every part of your shoulder, side, rear, and front delt, as very simple. Your chest is pretty complicated. You got decline, you got incline, you got flat. Quads, you got your teardrop, the medial head, and then you got the outer sweep. You know, even biceps, it's not just doing a curl, it's also responsible for this like twisting action. But shoulders, very linear, just here to here with load. So honestly, if all I had was access to was the, like just that stack of dumbbells, and I only did dumbbell side raises, I mean, that'd be fine, you know? Like it's not too fancy to use different machines instead of something basic, right? But since I do have it, I am gonna use it. So let's start here and we'll just go from there. Yeah. 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 Okay. Let's do same thing. 4 of these and then we'll finish with dumbbells. What are you going to finish with, little one? Yeah. 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 Okay. Okay. All right. Honestly, I think one finish with the dumbbells might be enough. But let's hit it and see how we look. Or see how we feel. All right. Yeah. I think one with the 40s has a 97% chance of being it. So, actually, let me raise you a touch higher. There we go. Yeah, let's just go nuts with the 40s first. Two. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's see how we're looking. All right, that was certainly not the longest workout ever. That was only 6 sets of rear delts and 5 sets of side delts. So, I mean, nothing crazy. But I think I got a little bit of extra traps in there too. Like, they're just jumping out a little more than normal. Let's see if the through the shirt lat spread has gotten any extra love from that blood flow. Oh, yeah. But not through lats per se, but just extra bulbousness in the shoulder that kind of rolls over to rear delt. And that's what I want to see. But let's hopefully they'll be pumped up to the point that everything else actually looks a little bit disproportionate, since my shoulders are already a little bit ahead of the game. But only our eyes will tell. Let's turn this guy down to, yeah, there we go. That looks about right. So what do you think? Is this standard upper back par for the course, or is it a little, is there a little bit of, extra something or other going on? Let's just do a full back lat spread first. Because I feel like this is extra, but some of that could also just be because I'm leaner and my back's not pumped, so all those little bits of separation is more defined. But I talk about this every so often. I don't know if you can even see it. It's like, you can't even tell. I'm not that lean. The best example that I can think of someone who has really defined like mid traps. So look, see if I can, I wish I could do like a Sharpie right now, but that wouldn't work. But basically like, I can't even describe it. The leaner you get, your back just gets extra cool. But let's see how shoulders are looking. Yeah, they feel a little bit extra grainy compared to normal. So the leaner that I get, the freakier that this will be. And I'm not even diced yet. Like I've got more body fat on my midsection than I would on my shoulders. Like this is pretty thin skin. But with the amount of body fat that's still there, like to see some of that grain, that's making me pretty freaking excited. Let's see if I can even reach around and do a side tricep. Yeah, barely. Come on. Yo. So yeah, the leaner I'll get, there should be this little line that goes from here up around the back, because that'll separate just straight tricep to actual shoulder. But let's see if the right side has any extra oomph. Yeah, we got something going. Yeah, it should be decently apparent in a back double bicep too, because that makes your shoulders as big as they can get. Oh, goodness. But all right. That was solid. So not the wildest lift, honestly, in terms of overall, like, muscular damage and exertion. Not even close to a quad day. But that's kind of the point. Today was supposed to be a little more chill, so I can have a bit more, not more energy per se, but be a bit more recovered for, oh yeah, shit, actually tomorrow's hamstrings. I was going about this thinking that tomorrow was quads. Well, I guess more energy for hamstrings tomorrow. But yeah, nothing else to say. Shoulders are going to be fully pumped for at least a little while. Let's get out of here. There we go. There we freaking go. And you know what? That wasn't that crazy, right? That wasn't that life-altering. There was no, pinnacle of endorphin release where I said, "Holy shit, it all makes sense. Everything in the world makes perfect sense now." Like that, there's no epiphany in that workout. It was a good couple sets. My shoulders are pumped, which I wanted them to be. And then now I get to go home and eat. That's the, there's not an illusion, but it's kind of a trick about what I guess, anything that is kind of a long-term endeavor requires. Because there's when we think of performance in a working out kind of setting, a bodybuilding setting, well, that's, you diet down and you go on stage, you do a routine, or in a more casual setting, posting a cool picture of yourself, making a little, just like being in really good shape. Like, we think that's the performance, where it's like, we take this picture, or we get this video, or whatever, or you do a full-on competition, let's say that's what your thing is, as though that's it, and that's the important part to highlight. Whereas, honestly, that's not really. Like, that's just a showing off point. Like, that's not, it's nothing special per se. Like, that's what's a little bit weird about some bodybuilding competitions now, especially with really high level guys, because let's say it's like 2 weeks before the competition, you're some of them they're pretty chatty with each other, at least in terms of videos, where they're saying like, look, I'm gonna be unbeatable, I'm gonna be this, like, there's no, I'm gonna whoop everybody once I get on stage, as though it's a competition that can be won on that day. Like, every bodybuilding show, beyond like if somebody messes up their prep, the show was won months in advance by whoever the guy was who won it, because he did everything right. He came in, he did his cardio, he stood on the step mill for 45 minutes. If you're like a J, I'm a little more of a seated bike fan, but I might throw the step mill in for this dieting phase later. See if some of the rumors are true, that it might harden up and bring out some extra grain in my quads. We'll see. But crap, what was I just saying? But yeah, that's it's those little things that add up to what you would describe as like showing off at the end. So I can, at least for me with all these workouts, I think I resonate with that well, where I'm not so concerned with any particular end point. Like, obviously I want to keep progressing in any way I can for as long as I can, right? That's kind of the whole point. But I'm not like, I try not to get caught up in like thinking, okay, it's all about this day, it's all about next month, like, that's not exactly how it is. I'm getting a little distracted. There's an old, like, souped up Porsche in front of me. That's kind of cool. It's like a really old one. It looks like a British car. But that's that's fun. Like, I mean, even getting to actually compete and win everything, like, that was, in the moment, actually felt pretty freaking crazy. But as I look back, that would never have happened if I couldn't hack it with all the cardio or all the dieting or everything else. So it's kind of a respect where respect is due kind of situation, because or no, that's not the phrase. What's the actual saying? I don't know. Whatever the saying is, because that's what actually added up to the performance later. So what I kind of describe as the real, like actual test and competition, is just your day in loop of what you want to do. You know, did I win today doesn't mean I had the best day ever. Did I win today means, did I stick to my diet? Did I get a decent amount of sleep? Did I lift pretty hard? That's only 3 things. Only 3 things, which none of them are crazy hard to do for me. And that means I won. At least, you know, in the lifting side of things. Doesn't mean I had a good day, but in terms of my kind of bodybuilding goals, then it means I had a perfect day. You know, so that's my concern. And now it's to the point where I can do it pretty consistently, but you know, that's all I got to do. I don't have to think, okay, I've got this competition coming up, or I've got this thing I want to do. All I have to think is, all right, I'm going to work out, I'm going to stick to my diet, and I'm going to, you know, not stay up till 4 a.m. playing on my phone. Nice, right? So that's it makes it easy that that's my thing, of course. So if working out is your thing, because sometimes when I'm giving my take on different workout advice and everything, I'm talking to 2 different people. I'm talking to what I would, you know, imagine could be anybody, because I want everybody to work out. Like no matter what you're into or what you're doing, or if you're a sculptor, or like your thing is any free time you ever get, you're spending it hunting, or you're into making miniature models and like resin 3D printing them and paint. Like, it doesn't matter what a big interest or hobby that you might have is, the gym should be involved, at least in a baseline of cardio, some weight training, and at least having a semi-decent diet. Now, I know that might seem silly coming from me, because Cinnamon Toast Crunch, like, I'm still hitting my protein, I'm still getting, you know, enough macronutrients, and I'm not vitamin deficient. Like, I don't stand up and get lightheaded because I've got an iron deficiency. So I'm saying everybody should be, you know, a rounded diet is definitely a little bit different than someone who only eats mac and cheese, like only, because they're very picky, right? I know there's people out there like that. That's what I mean. I just mean semi-rounded, not perfectly clean, like health nut, like, oh my God, who's that guy? Who's the, like, genetically, he says he's like biometrically 20 years younger than he really is. His whole thing is like longevity. I'm not saying like that. You know, I'm just saying a little bit, you know, because the more active you are, I'm not saying the leaner you are, I'm just saying the more active you are in general, you're going to have a better time with everything. You're probably going to sleep better. You're going to be able to move food through your system better. I mean, just adding, like, it's a pretty solid tipping of the scales in terms of a lot of different health metrics to be pretty active. So I think everybody should do that. But also the guys who are, you know, who I describe as a little more similar to me, in that they want the gym to be their thing. They want the gym to be the thing they're extra excited about every day, and that they want to pour a ton of energy into and get, you know, a reciprocal gains back. Then, shit, man, you know, you got to work out a bit more consistently than the average Joe, if that's what you want. Right? I'm not saying that you know, you need to come into the gym and think like, oh, there's so many fucking people in here, they're not even working out as hard as me. No, that's not the point. But it is kind of just a like, you know, it's not for me to say, because it's a self kind of embarked journey. But if I want gains and I want progress that are, you know, at a level of up here, and my effort is down here, it's like, what am I doing? You know, it just won't even make sense. If what I really wanted was like, okay, I want to do like 4 workouts a week, do just enough cardio that I'm still doing it, I'm not cheating. I just want to do the bare minimum I need just to stay, you know, in decent shape. Then I'm not saying it's a bad goal, but I'm saying that's just a more attainable goal, an easier goal. So if that's all I wanted and my effort was here to match that, well, then guess what? I'm good. I'm doing what I want to do. But if you've got a little bit of an itch where it's like, okay, man, I want it up here, you've got to raise the bar, right? You've got to raise your own personal bar so that you actually put yourself in a position to get where you want to go. And it doesn't have to be instant. Like it can be gradual. So that's where my concern is. As long as I'm having fun, well, then I'm going to keep doing it. And the more you keep doing anything, the better you'll get at it. If you put a guy into let's say you signed up somehow for acting lessons or lessons of any kind, piano lessons, yoga. Well, you wouldn't say yoga lessons, but like yoga class or whatever. You might not even like it. But if you did it every, maybe 3 times a week for an hour and a half each, it wouldn't take that long for you to start to notice you were getting better at it, just purely from, exposure and practice. So, that's where there's this clip of Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he's talking about how, like, people don't have a good grasp of exponential change, where it's like, if there's a little bit of algae in a pond, and then it doubles and it doubles and it doubles, like sometimes it's tricky to guess how long it's going to take to fill the whole pond. And I think that, people have the same thing when it comes to anything that's very gradual. Like with working out, the effect of one workout, I always like thinking about this just because one of the old gyms I used to go to always had a leaky ceiling. I don't know if it came from the roof or just a pipe or something. It wasn't pouring, but it would just have a drip every so often, every like 10 minutes or something. So they just left a 5-gallon bucket underneath of it. So you look up, you don't see any water, but every 2 months, inexplicably, holy crap, that gallon is full. Or that bucket is totally full. I feel like I've never even seen one drop of water come into it, but it's full now, right? And that's how I feel about all these workouts. They're just little additions. They're just little grains of sand that you're adding onto your sandcastle, right? Very slowly. But as long as you keep adding them, right, and you don't let anything stop you from doing it, well, shit, man, before you know it, you're going to have a big-ass pile, right? Or you're going to have a full bucket, or whatever visualization you like to think about like that, So it's not necessarily... and that's where having a bunch of all these photos and like progress pictures and videos for me really helps, because I can look back and think, holy crap, yeah, it has been 2 years since this photo was taken, or since this video was taken. So yeah, I guess the main point there is just don't be dissuaded by the slowness of the process, because most people are, and then that makes them give up because they're like, I'm not seeing results fast enough. So if you can just, be a little bit more patient and stick with it, well, then before you know it, the guys who quit before are going to be jealous of you because you actually did it. And then that's going to maybe be a motivator for them to say, oh, okay, shit, I should have stuck with it. Now let's get after it. And then it's just this chain reaction of, more and more people working out. So, yeah, I'd like to see... I've said this a couple times. I'd love to see the metrics on how many gyms there are, let's just say across the United States, just to keep it simple. The rate of new members, the rate of people canceling their memberships. Like, I love objective data on basically the populace of lifters. And, I guess people could try to do studies like where they post different Google polls or whatever. But, everybody's going to lie. It's like when I post on my Instagram story and I say, who's doing their cardio today? And like 30% of people say they did it. Maybe I'm a skeptic, but I think that number is a little bit inflated. A little bit, just potentially a little bit facetious. So, where is that number really? I don't know. In terms of worldwide population, totally less than 1%. Maybe less than 0.5%, if we're being real. Probably, maybe less than 0.1. That might be getting close, but definitely less than 1%. So, nothing else for me to do now but go home. I got a specific kind of canned tuna, and it's like 4 times better than any other kind I've had before. Usually, you scoop out this brick of tuna and it's just real rough. Like whatever brand of tuna this can is, it's like actually moist. Yeah, that'll be good. So slam some tuna, maybe add but have some rice on the side. That'll be good. So yeah, hamstrings tomorrow. I'll probably add a little bit of extra something or other because hamstrings would be pretty quick. Like if I do 5 or 6 sets of hamstrings, that's usually about it. But maybe I'll do a little bit more volume and then less intensity. So instead of heavy, crazy sets where honestly I might pull something, I think I'm going to back off from the heft and get a little more into the muscle, right? Get a little more squeezing, burning involved. But yeah, nothing else to say there. So I'll see you then.